The Pirates might have actually created a catching controversy. And honestly, that's a pretty good problem to have.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Locked On Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan. I've been covering the Pirates for nearly a decade, a former Sports Illustrated contributor, lifelong Pirates fan. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. We've got a lot to get into today. In segment 3, we're going to be talking about Mason Montgomery and whether the Pirates may have found their closer of the future. Segment 2, we'll discuss Paul Skenes, growing concern around his workload, velocity, mechanics, just a lot of it. And first, I want to talk about Rafael Flores Jr. because the Pirates catcher may have just made the offseason conversation a whole lot more interesting. Yesterday was one of those games that can completely alter the discussion around a player. Rafael Flores Jr. came off the bench and hit 2 home runs, helping push the Pirates into position to ultimately win the game and secure the series. The historical significance makes it even better. Flores is the only Pirate since at least 1900 to homer twice in a game he didn't start. He's also the only player in Major League Baseball history to hit a pinch hit home run and then a game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th inning in consecutive at-bats during the same game. I love little niche history things like that, because nobody else is ever even going to bring that up like something to attain to. But that's baseball. There's always something different. It's a pretty incredible day at the office. And I want to pump the brakes a little. I know that's not that fun, but I want to talk about it. Because as good as he was yesterday, it doesn't make him the starter. It doesn't make him the catcher of the future. It doesn't mean we've suddenly solved the Pirates' catching situation. What it does mean is that he's taken full advantage of the opportunities that he's being given. And lately, he's been a completely different offensive player than the one we saw during his first stint in Pittsburgh or, frankly, in his AAA time with Indianapolis. Part of the reason those opportunities exist is because Endy Rodriguez continues to battle health issues. And it's not a criticism. Injuries happen, but at some point, availability has to become part of the evaluation process. And Endy, he has many of the tools teams dream about in a catcher. He's athletic, he's versatile, capable behind the plate. He can move around the diamond. He's trainable. Problem is, he simply can't stay on the field consistently. But let's also be honest here. Flores isn't just getting opportunities because of Endy. He's getting opportunities because Henry Davis has not provided a competent bat. And that's what makes this discussion so fascinating. Because if we're talking strictly about defense, it isn't remotely close. Henry Davis is the best catcher the Pirates have. Not the best hitter. Not the hottest bat. Not the player generating headlines this week. The best catcher. Specifically, his arm is arguably the best in baseball. His 48.6% caught stealing rate leads qualified catchers by a wide margin, and runners have largely quit challenging him because they know how dangerous that arm can be. His defensive run save numbers place him among the elite defenders in the entire sport. And the framing improvements he's made over the last few years have been remarkable. Quite honestly, Henry Davis has become one of the better defensive catchers in Major League Baseball. The frustrating part is his glove developed faster than the bat, which everyone thought he came ready-made with. Meanwhile, Flores is almost the exact opposite. Offensively, he is showing real promise. Defensively, the arm is there. The technique isn't always there. The decision-making isn't always there. Sometimes fans think a catcher gets extra credit for throwing every runner out, and that's not really how the position works. Just as important as knowing where to throw is knowing when not to throw at all. We saw him make another mistake like that wound up not hurting the Pirates last night. There have been moments where Flores' aggressiveness has worked against him. His receiving can get sloppy. His setup seems to be evolving almost game to game, sometimes at bat to at bat. I've also, noticed a couple things that kind of show you, if you were to be a batter and you just take a peek over your shoulder at a catcher, the one thing that you can't do as a catcher is to give any kind of sign as to where you're going to slide, where you're expecting to have to slide to receive a ball. And I think he's tipping at least a little bit where some of those pitches are going. I think the way he sets up tells you that he thinks he's going to have to slide to his right or his left. And it's not a specific roadmap for a hitter. Don't get me wrong, but it don't help. And I think over time, that's another thing that's going to have to get cleaned up with him. The pitchers shake him off quite a bit too. Now, that's fairly normal for young catchers establishing trust with a pitching staff, so I'm not alarmed about it, but it's just another reminder that Flores is still developing as a catcher, not just a hitter. As we move through the end of 2026 and begin looking ahead to 2027, this position, the whole group really, becomes one of the most fascinating roster decisions in the whole organization. The Pirates could absolutely carry 3 catchers. With Davis, Flores, and Endy all having some ability to play first base, there are ways to make that work. They could also explore moving Henry Davis, and I think they'd like to. And I know some fans are ecstatic to hear that. I'm not even going to try to convince everybody, but defensive catchers who save runs have value. They always will. There will be interest in teams, from teams, if the Pirates decide to make him available. What's funny about Davis is he just wasn't supposed to become this player. When he was drafted, many evaluators believed that the Pirates were selecting a bat first and a catcher second. Instead, he became an elite defender while the offense remains the unfinished project. A lot of credit belongs to Jacob Stallings. Long before he was a coach, he really had a lot to do with Henry continuing to improve. But outside of Henry, Stallings may be the single most important person in transforming Davis from a questionable defensive catcher into one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. Now he'll likely have a chance to do that again with Rafael Flores. And that's why I think next spring is going to be fascinating. I expect Flores to show up believing he can win the everyday job. And if he performs well enough, I think the Pirates will absolutely give him that opportunity. The organizational depth behind these guys is strong too. Axial Plaz still feels, a year plus away to me. Easton Carmichael could probably work his way into the conversation next season. Edglin Perez, very young, but he continues to impress. Still has plenty of development ahead of him, but I really like that depth. It's a good group. What I don't see yet is a prospect who's pushing the current group off the roster. Not yet. One other wrinkle to monitor, I think, that the Pirates recently acquired Christian Betancourt. Some of you will remember that he was a Pirates farmhand a couple years ago. They placed him on the taxi squad because players whose contracts have not been selected to a 40-man roster can still be traded after the deadline. The Pirates were able to make that move. And it wouldn't shock me at all if they eventually add him to the active roster. If they want to continue using Flores at first base the way they have, they'd really like to maintain a more traditional backup catcher structure where they can make some moves or pinch hit for Henry and allow someone else to come in and fill in for him defensively. It would require a 40-man move, but that's totally doable. And it only adds another layer to what is shaping up to be one of the most interesting position battles in the organization. Not that Betancourt's part of that, but it would tell you more about how they feel about Flores right now and his ability right this second. I'm not saying that you're never going to see him catch again, but I think the shortcomings are pretty clear. Speaking of fascinating evaluations, no player in this organization is generating more debate right now than Paul Skenes. Some people want to shut him down. Others think there's nothing to see here. As usual, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, then you know how tough it is to find the perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why the Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shots treat your taste buds to an explosion of fruity flavor with a tasty caffeine kick. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always been a sucker for those fruity candy flavors. The Fruity Rainbow Shot kind of reminds me of raiding the candy aisle as a kid, except this time I'm getting a boost of energy instead of a sugar crash. That's my favorite part about it. It's also zero sugar, which means I can scratch that sweet tooth itch without feeling like I'm overdoing it. And honestly, convenience matters too. It's small enough to throw in a bag, keep in a car, or have it handy at those long days when you just need a little extra energy to get through your schedule. It's become one of my go-to options when I have something sweet that I want and quick pick me up. Don't want to load up on a bunch of sugar. Get candy flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. You know, there's a lot of things you can put off until the last minute in life. Buying concert tickets, deciding what you're having for dinner, maybe even figuring out what's going on with the Pirates catching situation. But one thing I love about baseball season is being able to decide on a whim that I want to go watch a game. Nothing beats being at the ballpark live. The crack of the bat sounds different, the atmosphere's better, and when the Pirates actually pull off something crazy in the ninth inning, you get to experience it with thousands of other fans. The only problem, getting tickets can feel like a hassle. Long queues and surprise fees, prices changing right before checkout. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I've used the seat view feature before, and honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the app. You can actually see the view from your exact seat before you buy. So there's no surprises when you get to the stadium. I'm also a big fan of the zone deals. If you're flexible, you can pick the general area you want to sit in and save even more with Game Time selects the exact seat for you. And if you're like me and constantly keeping an eye on ticket prices, you can follow your favorite team and get alerts when new deals drop. I've seen tickets get surprisingly cheap, which makes those last minute decisions a whole lot easier. My favorite thing, though, is the pricing. The fees are included up front. What you see is what you pay. No getting all the way to checkout and suddenly wondering what an extra $20 came from. 2 taps, it's done. No stress, no hidden fees, just great seats and minutes. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Hey, everybody, welcome back. If you're one of our everyday listeners and want an even better experience, check out the Locked On Pirates Everydayer Club. You get ad-free episodes, access to our Discord community, exclusive conversations with other Pirates fans, and bonus content through the year. It's just $5 a month or $50 annually. Head over to the Supercast link in the show notes and become part of the club today. As always, thank you to the everydayers out there who make Locked On Pirates one of the top-ranked Pirates podcasts anywhere. Now let's talk about Paul Skenes. That 4.1 inning outing against Detroit is really just one piece of a much larger puzzle. When you look at the discussion surrounding Skenes right now, there's a lot of different things getting mixed together. The velocity decline, The shorter outings, the fatigue concerns, the latest mechanical analysis from people like Kurt Schilling, the latest that I saw. And what gets lost is the difference between concern and panic. My position is pretty simple. Shutting him down completely feels like an overreaction. But acknowledging that something is happening, I think you'd be foolish to ignore it. I think you'd be foolish to pretend there's nothing happening here. Schilling's argument's actually pretty reasonable. His core point is that Skenes operates with a high effort delivery that places significant stress on the body. I don't think that that's old school pitcher talk. It's a biometrical mechanical reality. And Skenes generates ridiculous velocity and movement through rotational force, athleticism, and violence in the delivery. The downside is that when you're built that way, minor imperfections can create major consequences. A slightly altered release point, a different arm slot, a late foot strike, any of those things can have a magnified impact. And that's where some of the recent struggles seem to be showing themselves. The velocity simply isn't where it was. We're not seeing the consistent 98, 99. We're seeing more 95, 96. Still good. Still incredible by a lot of standards, but human. And that's a key difference. Hitters have adjusted too. The league now has a substantial scouting book on him. They're chasing less. They're making him work harder. They're forcing him into the zone. The result is longer at bats, more pitch count stress, some innings that end much earlier than we become accustomed to seeing. That's also why I think the shutdown crowd is jumping the gun. A diminished Paul Skenes is still a productive major league starter. He just isn't going deep enough into games to give the team a chance to win most nights. He's still significantly better than the alternative options. And there's a huge difference between fatigue and injury. Young pitchers hit walls. They hit dead arm periods. They adjust to workloads. They learn how to navigate a 162 game schedule, especially when you're coming off additional competitive experiences and carrying all the expectations that come with being the face of a franchise. To me, this isn't just about sounding alarms. It's about evolution. Skenes may have reached the point where dominating with pure stuff alone isn't enough. He may need to pitch differently. He may need to sequence differently. He may need to command differently. He may need to learn how to dominate at 96 the way he once dominated at 100. And honestly, that development would probably make him an even more dangerous pitcher in the long run. If he can discover a slightly more repeatable, less physically taxing delivery while maintaining elite command and stuff, we'll probably look back on this stretch as nothing more than a developmental checkpoint. Not the beginning of a downfall. Just another hurdle every great pitcher eventually faces. I can't say any of that is 100% what's going on with him. I can say that, I see a lot of people, they want to just dismiss Kurt Schilling because I guess he's politically on the wrong side of the fence to you. But I would just say that doesn't necessarily roll out expertise in a certain field, okay? Like, let's say my only option to understand blacksmithing is the old racist down the road. Well, I don't have to agree with all of his disgusting racist takes in order to understand that this guy understands what I need to understand from blacksmithing. Is at least somebody that you can take information from as long as you're talking about that chosen profession, right? And Kurt Schilling, despite what you want to say, is a very, very good pitcher evaluator. He really is. And he was known as this even while he pitched. He was very good at noticing what some of his teammates were doing and offering them tweak solutions, That doesn't mean like he's the guy, the only guy that can, but I'm just saying don't dismiss information because you don't like the messenger. Okay, there are areas of expertise that supersede that crap. And in this case, I think that's one of them. I think he has a real point with Paul. I think it's a point that I encouraged a lot of you to go and try and read Alex Stump's piece on this the other day. He kind of reinforces a lot of what Alex said, maybe with a little more real world experience backing up his words. But there's reason to expect that Paul Skenes is a tweak or two away from making this good. Now, my supposition is that that's not something that's easily done in season. Kurt Schilling seemed to make it seem as though it was a perfectly acceptable and doable thing to get done in season. I don't. He also seemed to allude to the fact that it was as simple as having a coach with the balls to say it to Paul. I don't think that's the issue either. Everybody has said it to Paul. It's about Paul agreeing and having his team agree outside of the Pirates and start working on it. And that's not something they do in season with big changes. I think this Paul is probably the Paul we're going to see most of the rest of the way. If there is a small adjustment, it's going to be something like arm slot or maybe even just wind up. And I think you can expect to see some improvement there, but there's always going to be a little bit of give and take with that sort of thing. Shutting him down, I just think, would be counterproductive. Even if he's not giving you the kind of innings that you want him to give, you still want the exercise of continuing to stretch him out to happen. You can't have him fall back and then have next year question how many innings he can give you, because he's going to have to be a horse for this team at some point. While the Pirates continue searching for answers with one superstar pitcher, they may have quietly found a massive answer in the bullpen. Mason Montgomery isn't just pitching well anymore. He's starting to look dominant. Can we talk about one of the most underrated organs in your body? Your liver. If your body's filter, processing everything you consume and performing more than 500 functions every day. It's involved in things like energy production and digestion, fat metabolism, vitamin storage. So it's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. That's why giving your liver daily support can be an important part of building healthy habits. Dose Your Liver is a clinically backed liver health supplement designed to support daily liver function. Unlike another capsule or powder, Dose comes as a liquid 2-ounce daily shot that tastes like fresh squeezed orange juice. It's zero sugar, zero junk, zero calories, making it an easy addition to your daily routine. And honestly, that's what stood out for me most. My schedule is all over the place between work and podcasting, keeping up with the Pirates every day, and everything else life throws at you. The routines that actually stick are usually the simple ones. So I like the idea of Dose. It's just a quick 2-ounce shot. You don't have to remember a bunch of pills, mix powders, or add another complicated step to your day. It's easy enough to work into your morning routine and then move on with your day. Ready to give your liver the support it deserves? Head to dosedaily.co/LockedOnMLB or enter LockedOnMLB to get 35% off your first subscription. Your body does so much for you. Let's do something for it. That's dosedaili.co/LockedOnMLB for 35% off your first month subscription. Hey everybody, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. It's time to talk about Mason Montgomery. Because if you've been watching recently, you know exactly why people are starting to throw around some pretty lofty comparisons. And I've held off on this. I wanted to talk about him a while ago, but I kept talking myself into wait and see. I kept telling myself, the stuff's incredible. He was always going to have decent stretches where the stuff played up big, and he was always going to have stretches where the command was a little better, and he was always going to do this. It's been really consistent for a really long time now, to the point where comparing his recent run to somebody like Mason Miller is not ridiculous. In fact, when you look at the profile, you can understand why the discussion exists. Montgomery has quietly become one of the most dangerous bullpen weapons on this roster and the league. The strikeout numbers immediately jump off the page. He's punching out hitters at an elite rate. The stuff is overwhelming. Whether he's entering the run with runners on base or protecting a small lead or working the ninth inning, hitters look uncomfortable from the moment he steps on the mound. Velocity is a huge reason why. He's regularly touching triple digits and pairing it with a breaking ball that generates ugly swings and plenty of chases outside of the strike zone. But what I've liked most is that this isn't just about radar gun readings anymore. We're talking about results. He's stacking scoreless appearances. He's handling leverage. He's attacking hitters. And perhaps more importantly, he looks comfortable doing it. There's relievers that throw hard. There's relievers who pitch confidently. The really special ones do both. Montgomery is beginning to look like that kind of arm. And it creates an interesting debate. Do you simply make him the closer? There's certainly an argument for him. Give him the ninth. Let him lock down games. Seems like that's what they're trying to do. Keep things simple. There's another part of me that wonders if his highest value comes in a more flexible role. What if the toughest portion of the opposing lineup is due up in the 7th or the 8th? What if there's a bases loaded situation in the 8th? And I just got to have that K. What if the game is actually decided before the 9th inning ever arrives? We've seen elite relievers provide tremendous value by being deployed at the highest leverage moments instead of being tied to one inning. That's where I lean right now. I think he absolutely can close. I just don't know if that's the best use of his talents. I'm just a thought process here. He's becoming the kind of pitcher managers should want available whenever the game is on the line. No matter when that is. Regardless of the label. I'd say one thing that's becoming increasingly clear, the Pirates have found themselves a legitimate back-end bullpen weapon from the left side. The way he's throwing it right now, he might be one of the most important pieces of the pitching staff heading in the next season, and they have this guy under team control for 4 more years if they want him. It's a beautiful thing. And I think really the thing that we've undersold most about Mason Montgomery, the control has definitely stepped up. The velocity's always been there. The movement has been there ever since he changed a few things about his arm motion early in the season. In fact, that's kind of the cool way to look at it. Pirates basically attacked him in phases. First thing they did is they said, okay, everything's cool here, but boy, we're walking too many guys here. If we're going to use you where we want to use you, that's got to go. And they worked on the control aspect of it. And I believe by sometime in May or June, they pretty much had it licked with him. They could bring him into a bases loaded situation and not worry he was going to walk somebody. He really, really put it on lockdown. The next thing that they tackled was, well, the velocity is great, but there's just not enough movement. And he already threw a 2-seamer, but he just didn't have good control of it. So they started introducing it as this thing they would use at the top of the zone because he could throw it with the same velocity he could throw the 4-seamer, which not every pitcher can. One pitcher who can, who has made a living on it for years, is Aroldis Chapman. And that pitch Mason Montgomery throws, it's almost the same thing. That 2-seamer breaking in hard on lefties is just evil. And against righties, it's not fun either. He can backdoor a righty, or he can throw something that looks like it's going to dot the outside corner and it fades away at the last minute, and he gets off the end of the bat, swings from it. He's really becoming a weapon. And that's all. Without even having him drop one of those breaking balls that just bends knees. This guy really could be something big, a real closer. I love it. And they've got other options. They brought in other options that they have heading into next year already. You would not be doing badly if you decided Luke Weaver was your closer. But boy, if you can get away with using him in the 8th, I think you've single-handedly shored up that back end. Even if they don't do anything else, which I think we hope they do. But I love it. Right now, he looks every bit the part. And it's one of the most exciting developments of the season. The best thing that could happen is if the Pirates force us to see a heck of a lot more of him because they're putting the team in situations to win games late. Pirates have some fascinating questions to answer this offseason. What does the catching position look like? How do they manage Paul Skenes moving forward? And have they quietly developed a shutdown bullpen monster in Mason Montgomery? Those are all conversations that are just getting started. And we're going to have them a lot more here. Thank you for making Locked On Pirates your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Sully is the best. I've been Gary Morgan, and until next time, we're serious about Pirates baseball because somebody has to be. Let's go Bucks.